to all of you. With a smile, please. Very good. Happy feast to all of you. Well, today I thought I wanted to preach on St. Bernard. I was browsing your YouTube channel, and whatever I wanted to preach, they already preached. So there's nothing to preach about Bernard, St. Bernard. And then I thought, let me preach about today's gospel, and Monsignor has already preached in the introduction. So that is also no option. What is left over is only today's second reading and first reading. Well, I'll concentrate only on second reading because today is a feast day. I don't want to bore you all, and then I want to be short and crisp as possible. My brothers and sisters, I remember when I entered into St. Peter's Seminary, Bangalore, we are all asked to take a priest for spiritual direction. And every brother who enters a seminary, they should have a spiritual director where a brother has to go and open himself up completely without any secrets, and then the priest who is allotted will guide us. So I'm sure all the priests who are on the altar had the spiritual director. So too I had one MEP priest, Father Cornelius. When I went first to him, he said these words to me: Brother Anthony, remember, you chose me as your spiritual director, but don't be surprised. Now, God forbid, I may leave my priesthood. I may live a scandalous life, but don't take me as an example. But your example and your focus should be Jesus Christ. My dear brothers and sisters, there are so many in the Catholic Church who are leaving Catholic Church, finding fault or looking some bad in a sister or in a priest or in the church and getting away. And thanks to Father Alex, who has started bringing back the Catholics. Wonderful. But if there is no such ministry, imagine what would be the fate of the Catholics. And therefore, Jesus should be our focus. And Jesus should be our continuous focus. Not the scandals of priests, not the scandals of the church, or you get irritated with the Catholic Church for the rules, regulations, traditions. Not all these, but our ultimate focus should be on Jesus himself. And that's what the second reading today, taken from the book of Hebrews, clearly highlights. Now, the letter to Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 to 4, we read this: Let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. I repeat, let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of faith. My dear brothers and sisters, our Christian life is a marathon. What is marathon? What is that marathon? Not 100 meters race or 50 meters race or frog race. What is that? It's a continuous race, you know. And I remember when we were intermediate, we were asked to run from St. Mary's College to Tangban and come back from there to St. Mary's back. And so many we were running, and I felt halfway. Then, we were looking for some bikes to reach there and then come back. Now, many of us give us halfway. But then St. Paul says that a Christian faith, a Christian should be continuously running in his faith. He has to persevere in his faith. not just run halfway and then get down. My dear brothers and sisters, sometimes, or St. Paul clearly tells us today about three things. That is, run light. When you are running, you should always be light. What is light? When you are running, if you carry 100 kg of bag or sack on your back, can you run? Can you run? Yeah. It is heavy, right? And therefore, St. Paul says, run light. And I think that's why you see athletes, when they run, they have minimum clothing on their body. Even that counts. You know, when they have a minimum clothing, they can run as faster as possible. And therefore, St. Paul tells us, run light. Throw away every weight of sin. What is that? Throw away every weight of sin. Because our race is not an 100-meter race, but it is a marathon. It is a continuous race that we have to run and run and run continuously. And therefore, see that you don't get attached to sin or the weights of this world. ఈ లోక వ్యామోహాలకి మనము అంటిపెట్టుకొనకుండా ఎంత తక్కువగా మన ఆధ్యాత్మిక జీవితానికి వస్తువులపై లేక మన వస్తువులపై తక్కువగా కేంద్రీకరిస్తామో అంతగా మనము మన విశ్వాసములో కొనసాగుతాము అని పునీత పౌలు గారు చెప్తూ ఉన్నారు. My brothers and sisters, we have a beautiful example from the book of Genesis, chapter 19, verse 26. We heard a story of Lot's wife. Have you heard this story? What is the story? What is the story of Lot's wife? When the angels come and tell Lot and his wife to move away from where? Sodom and Gomorrah. They were not moving. And then the angels tell them, move as fast as possible. And they say also give a command telling them not to look back. But who looks back? Lot's wife, because she was attached to the place. And we know the Bible says that she became a pillar of salt. My brothers and sisters, running in this faith journey, walking in this faith journey, getting attached to things, getting attached to the sinful life or worldly pleasures can make us or stuck us down onto this earth. And that's why St. Paul tells us, run the race of faith in lighter way. And the second thing that we hear from St. Paul in the same letter, he says is run with perseverance. Run with perseverance. It is not 100-meter race, just run and stop, but it is a continuous race where there will be hills, there will be valleys, there are trials, there are temptations, there are failures, there are sufferings. Many begin well, but only few reach the destination. We have so many problems. We encounter so many depressions, so many troubles, but all may not reach it because it is a continuous race. My brothers and sisters, holding on to Christ only makes us to run this race, a continuous race. Remember the story of Job. In the letter, in the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 21, we hear the beautiful words from the mouth of Job. What is that? What is that? The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. What made him to say this? What made him to say this? The reason is, every moment of his life, he was encountering a problem. His health deteriorated. He lost his children. He lost his wealth. And they were his friends who was coming and telling them, curse God and die. If you love God, God should be close to you. God should come to your aid. But then, where is your God? Out of this, the misguidance from his friends, his wife, and all those people, the Job, in his continuous perseverance in his faith, tells these people, the Lord has given, the Lord has taken. What a beautiful verse, my dear brothers and sisters. If you meditate in depth, there won't be any attachments with our children, with your wife, with your husband, with the worldly pleasures or worldly things. Because everything that comes, we think it is from God. Whenever something goes away, you think it is God who has taken it away. That makes us to feel very light in our spiritual journey. A third thing, my dear brothers and sisters, we find something which tells us that run with focus. Our focus should be, our eyes should be on Jesus. My dear brothers and sisters, remember in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 14, we have a beautiful example of Peter, right? When the sea was with lot of waves, it was tossing, the sea was tossing. That's when Jesus walks on the sea. And Peter sees Jesus and says, Lord, can I also walk like you? What did Jesus say? You can come, walk. And then Peter, in the beginning, walks to a certain extent on the water, as long as his focus was on Jesus. But once he lost his focus on Jesus, slowly he began to sink. But brothers and sisters, when your attention is on problems, when your attention is on the troubles, when your attention is on the worldly cares, you begin to sink. You begin to sink. I think, I don't know whether I shared this story about a small boy who asked his dad, how big is God? How big is God? And then the father kept quiet and waited for a moment. And then he got an occasion to teach a lesson to his son. He saw an airplane passing on top of him, and he asked his son, Son, do you see that flight flying on top? He said, Yes, Dad. How big is that? He said, Dad, it's so small, so tiny. And then this father waited for another occasion, and then he took him to the airport, and then he showed him the landed airplane there, and asked his son, Son, tell me, how big is that airplane now? He said, Dad, it's so big, so big. And now the dad took a chance to explain to son about the bigness of God. He said, the bigness or the smallness of God depends on the distance that you maintain with Him. The closer you are to God, the bigger He looks. The far you maintain the relationship with you and God is far, He looks very small. My dear brothers and sisters, if you focus onto the problems look very big, God looks very small. But when you focus your attention onto God, and then the problems looks very small, because the psalmist says that everything on this earth, everything in this world is created by God, and everything has to bow under His feet or before Him. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, our focus should be onto God and not to the problems. My dear brothers and sisters, the Bible gives us how do we end the race. How do we end the race? There are two kinds of people that we come to across. There are two kinds of people. Those people who began well but ended very badly. We have beautiful examples from the Bible itself. The life of Solomon. What happened to Solomon? He began his spiritual journey so well. When God asked him, "What is that you want in your life?" What did he say? He said, "I want wisdom." Only those people who have faith in God can surely say that I want wisdom. Wisdom is nothing but God. Pinto, stop. Only when we have God, or when we are simply following God, only then we can say that we need wisdom or we need the noble things. Solomon began his spiritual journey so well, but he did not complete the race. He has ended it halfway. He began to worship false gods, pagan gods, and then he has gone astray by betraying God, marrying so many women of other faith. His conclusion was not that good. My brothers and sisters, there are also people who began poorly but ended beautifully. There are people who began very poorly. They started their spiritual journey very slow, not that effectively, but then they ended it so beautifully. The example is St. Paul. St. Paul, the moment he started his life, it was the persecution of Christians, and slowly he came to know about Christ, and then he went to the extent of saying, it is not I who live, but Christ who lives in me. He went to that extent, my dear brothers and sisters. And he never went back when persecutions encountered him. When imprisonment bonded him, nothing could shake him. And that's how he ended his race. And that's why in the letter to second letter to Timothy chapter 4 verse 7, he says, I have fought a good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness. My dear brothers and sisters, today as we celebrate the feast of Saint Bernard, these were the three noble qualities that he enjoyed. The first thing, that he was always running light. That means he always saw to that the importance to the worldly things were of less importance and more to God. And second thing, he was persevering in his faith. As Father rightly said in introduction, he encountered persecutions, he encountered humiliations, yet he persevered in his faith. And thirdly, his focus was only Jesus, and only to him he got stuck. And we who are followers, we who ask the intercession of Saint Bernard, today if you ask him, Saint Bernard, what you want me to do? I think he would tell you these three things. Don't be attached to the worldly things. Have a continuous perseverance in your faith, despite struggles, despite problems. And thirdly, have a focus on Jesus and not on your problems. Shall we all close our eyes and pray and ask Saint Bernard to pray for us, and ask Jesus to give us a right spirit, a spirit where we all have a light life, run lightly in this spiritual journey, not getting stuck, having perseverance in our faith, and then also having focus on Jesus.